What if I told you that 17 seconds of kindness could change an entire neighborhood forever? Mile 20 of the Chicago Marathon. Thousands of exhausted runners push through the rain, chasing personal records and dreams. But when Jamal Washington spots a 12-year-old girl collapsing near the medical tent, everything changes. She's hyperventilating, lost, alone in a sea of 45,000 people. Jamal has trained 8 months for this moment. He's 17 years old, running in borrowed shoes, and this marathon represents his only shot at a college scholarship. His family's restaurant is 2 months behind on rent. Every second he stops costs him his future. But this girl is in real trouble. What Jamal doesn't know is that the person he's about to help has the power to transform not just his life, but his entire community. The choice he makes in the next few minutes will lead to a phone call that changes everything. But Jamal's story begins 3 hours earlier, in a place where dreams felt impossible, 5:47 a.m. The alarm clock screams in the cramped apartment above Washington family's soul food. Jamal's feet hit the cold linoleum floor, and reality hits harder than any marathon training ever could. Downstairs, his mother Denise counts yesterday's earnings at the scratched wooden counter. $47. After ingredients, utilities, and taxes, they're left with enough to maybe buy groceries for 2 days. The eviction notice stares at them both. 2 months behind on rent. $2,400 owed. The landlord isn't answering calls anymore. Jamal watches his mother's tired eyes scan the empty restaurant. At 42, Denise Washington has worked every day for the past 3 years to keep this place alive. Her hands are permanently stained from seasoning cast iron pans. Her back aches from standing 14-hour shifts. She doesn't know Jamal sees her crying in the kitchen some nights. "Morning, baby," she whispers, forcing a smile. "You ready for your big day?" Jamal nods, but his stomach churns with more than pre-race nerves. Today isn't just about running 26.2 miles. It's about proving that someone from their zip code can achieve something extraordinary. For 8 months, he's trained on these same streets. Past the boarded-up storefronts, around the broken streetlights, through the neighborhood where 3 small businesses closed this year alone. Mrs. Rodriguez's corner store, gone. The Johnson family bakery where his father used to buy Sunday donuts, closed. Even Murphy's barbershop, where his dad got his hair cut every 2 weeks until the heart attack took him 4 years ago. Each empty storefront feels like another piece of his world disappearing. Jamal's running shoes are borrowed from his cousin Marcus, who outgrew them 2 years ago. His fitness tracker is a hand-me-down from a church donation box. The running shorts have a small tear near the left pocket, carefully sewn by his 14-year-old sister, Keisha. But none of that matters today. Because if he can finish this marathon in under 3 hours and 30 minutes, he qualifies for the Chicago Urban Scholars Program. Full college scholarship. Pre-med track. A real chance at medical school. The $50 entry fee came from 2 weeks of skipped lunches. Denise doesn't know. She would have insisted on finding the money somewhere else, even though there was nowhere else to find it. "Jamal's going to be a doctor someday," she tells anyone who will listen. "My boy's got the heart for it." She's right. He does have the heart. But hearts don't pay tuition bills. Keisha bounces into the kitchen, already dressed despite the early hour. She's made a poster with markers and construction paper, "Go Jamal," in bright red letters, decorated with hand-drawn hearts and lightning bolts. "I'm gonna scream so loud when you cross that finish line," she grins. "The whole city's gonna hear me." Jamal hugs her tight. At 14, Keisha believes in him completely. She doesn't understand the weight pressing down on his shoulders, the mathematical reality that this marathon represents their family's last real shot at changing everything. The scholarship program only accepts 30 students per year from the entire South Side. Jamal's grades are perfect, but so are hundreds of other applicants. The marathon time requirement is what separates the dreamers from the achievers. 3 hours and 30 minutes. He's hit it exactly twice in training. On perfect weather days when his borrowed shoes felt comfortable, when his body cooperated completely. Today, The forecast calls for rain. As he laces up his shoes, Jamal touches the St. Christopher pendant in his pocket. His father's pendant. The one Dad wore every day he worked construction, believing it would keep him safe on job sites. It didn't save him from the heart attack at 38. But maybe it can help Jamal run fast enough to save their family. The pendant is warm from his body heat, a small piece of his father, traveling with him on the most important day of his young life. Denise hands him a piece of toast with peanut butter. Not much, but it's what they have. "Your daddy would be so proud," she says softly. "You got his determination and my stubborn streak. That's a powerful combination." Jamal kisses her forehead. She smells like the restaurant's signature seasoning blend and the lavender soap she uses to wash dishes. She smells like home. "I'm gonna make it, Mama." "We're gonna make it." She nods, but he catches her glancing at the eviction notice again. The morning air bites his skin as he walks to the train station. The pre-dawn streets are mostly empty except for a few early commuters and the overnight shift workers heading home. This is his neighborhood. These are his people. The lady who runs the laundromat and always lets them slide when they're short on quarters. The bus driver who waits an extra 30 seconds when he sees kids running to catch the morning route to school. Good people. Hard-working people. People who deserve better than watching their community disappear one closed business at a time. If Jamal can run fast enough today, maybe he can come back as Dr. Washington someday. Maybe he can help save this place. The train arrives and Jamal boards with hundreds of other marathon runners. Their gear is expensive, professional. Their conversations are about personal records and Boston qualifying times. Jamal stays quiet, fingering his father's pendant, and watches Chicago wake up through the window. In 3 hours, everything changes. He just doesn't know how much. 3 hours into the race, when Jamal was already pushing his limits, fate stepped in. Mile 20 feels like running through concrete. Jamal's legs burn with every step. The borrowed shoes have rubbed blisters on both heels, and his makeshift training shows in every labored breath. Around him, runners with professional gear and support teams surge ahead like they're barely warming up. Their GPS watches beep perfectly timed intervals. Their custom-fitted shoes pound the pavement with mechanical precision. Jamal checks his father's old digital watch. 3:15 elapsed. He needs to finish in 15 more minutes to make his scholarship time. His legs feel like they're filled with sand. That's when he sees her. Through the haze of exhaustion and the growing crowd of spectators, commotion erupts near the medical tent. A young girl in expensive Nike running gear sits on the concrete curb, hyperventilating. She can't be older than 12. Definitely not a runner, no race number, no timing chip. But she's in real distress. Her small chest rising and falling rapidly as panic takes hold. The girl keeps looking at her phone with desperate eyes. "My dad. He doesn't know where I am," she whispers to herself, loud enough for Jamal to hear as he approaches the chaos. Several runners pass by. They're too focused on their personal records to notice one scared child in a sea of 45,000 people. Their eyes are locked on their watches, calculating split times and final finish projections. Jamal understands. He should be doing the same thing. But this girl tries to approach a woman in professional running attire. "Excuse me, can you help?" "Sorry, honey, I'm trying to qualify for Boston," the woman gasps, not even slowing down. A man with an expensive hydration belt glances over but keeps running. "Find a volunteer," he calls back without stopping. The girl's breathing becomes more labored, more desperate. The medical volunteers are overwhelmed. 3 runners have collapsed from heat exhaustion in the past 10 minutes, and the EMTs are busy with IV bags and oxygen masks. Light rain begins to fall. What started as a perfect October morning is turning gray and cold. The girl's panic intensifies as droplets hit her face. Jamal's internal calculator runs the numbers automatically. Every second he stops costs him precious time. His current pace puts him right at the edge of qualification. There's no buffer, no room for error. His mother's worried face flashes through his mind. The eviction notice. The $47 in yesterday's earnings. She sacrificed everything for that $50 entry fee, even though she doesn't know he paid for it with skipped meals. But there's something familiar in this girl's expression. The same helplessness he felt 4 years ago when his father collapsed at the construction site. The way other workers stepped around Dad's body, too busy with their own deadlines to stop and help until it was too late. The girl looks directly at Jamal through her tears. She can see he's struggling too, can see the exhaustion written across his face, but desperation makes her brave. "Please," she mouths silently, and that one word hits him like a punch to the chest. As Jamal slows his pace, he notices details that don't quite fit. Her phone case has an unusual logo-sleek expensive, with the letters HF intertwined in elegant script. When she sees him looking, she quickly flips the phone face down. Her running gear is high-end Nike, but it looks slightly too big for her frame, like it belongs to someone else. The shoes are barely scuffed. This isn't someone who runs regularly. Race officials' voices boom over the loudspeakers. "Attention runners! Course closure begins in 30 minutes. Runners behind the pace vehicle will be removed from the race. Repeat, 30 minutes until course closure." Jamal does the math instantly. If he stops for more than 10 minutes, his marathon dream dies. Not just today. The Urban Scholars Program only considers applications once per year. This is his shot, his only shot. The girl's breathing gets worse, shallow, rapid gasps that could turn into full hyperventilation. Her lips are starting to look pale. Around them, the marathon continues. Thousands of runners stream past, each chasing their own dreams, their own finish lines. The crowd cheers for everyone except this one scared child who doesn't belong here. Jamal's St. Christopher pendant bounces against his chest with each step. He can feel its familiar weight through his soaked running shirt. What would his father do? The question answers itself before Jamal can think twice. His father, who stopped to help stranded drivers on the highway even when he was late for work. His father, who gave his last $20 to Mrs. Rodriguez when her store needed emergency repairs. His father, who taught him that character isn't about what you do when people are watching, it's about what you do when no one will ever know. The girl looks up at him one more time. Her eyes hold the same fear he sees in his own mirror some nights, when the weight of supporting his family feels impossible. Time stops. The marathon continues around them, and Jamal Washington makes the choice that will change everything. What Jamal did next would cost him everything he'd trained for. Without hesitation, Jamal abandons his race. His feet stop moving forward and pivot toward the scared girl on the curb. Every fiber of his exhausted body screams in protest, but his heart makes the decision for him. "Hey, you okay?" His breathing is heavy, sweat dripping from his face despite the cool rain, but his voice carries a gentleness that cuts through the chaos around them. The girl looks up, blonde hair plastered to her head from the drizzle, blue eyes wide with fear, clearly from a world completely different from his. She's maybe 12 years old, but carries herself with a confidence that money usually brings. Until now. Now she just looks like any scared kid who's in way over her head. What's wrong? Jamal kneels beside her on the wet concrete, ignoring the sharp pain shooting through his cramped calves. "I can't find my dad." Her voice cracks. "I'm supposed to meet him at the finish line." "Where's your family?" "They don't know I'm here." The admission hangs between them like a confession. This girl snuck out. She's not supposed to be alone at a marathon, not supposed to be 20 miles from wherever she started. Not supposed to be hyperventilating on a Chicago street corner while thousands of strangers run past. Jamal's protective instincts kick in immediately. The same ones that make him walk Keisha home from school every day, that make him check on elderly Mrs. Thompson next door when her groceries are delivered. "Okay, what's your name?" "Sophie." "Sophie, I'm Jamal." We're gonna figure this out all right? She nods, but her breathing is still too fast, too shallow. Classic panic attack symptoms. Jamal recognizes them from his own stress responses during the worst nights worrying about his family's finances. Sophie, I need you to breathe with me, okay? In through your nose, count to 4. She tries to follow his lead. Her small chest rises and falls more steadily as Jamal demonstrates the breathing technique his school counselor taught him during his father's funeral. Good. Out through your mouth, count to 6. Around them, the marathon continues its relentless pace. Runners stream past like a river of determination and sweat. Each passing second moves Jamal further from his qualifying time and closer to a future that doesn't include college. He doesn't think about it. Not once. Better? He asks after 30 seconds of controlled breathing. Sophie nods, and some color returns to her pale cheeks. Thank you. But your race. Races happen every year. People matter more. The simple truth of his words surprises them both. Jamal means it completely, even as he watches his dreams literally run past him in the form of other competitors who are still chasing their finish lines. Tell me what happened, he says gently. The story comes out in fragments. Sophie took a cab from her private school in Lincoln Park, wanting to surprise her father at his first marathon attempt. She'd researched the route, planned to meet him at mile 26 with a sign and congratulations, but the cab driver dropped her at mile 20 instead of the finish line. Her phone is dying. She has no cash for another ride. She doesn't really know Chicago outside of her neighborhood. Worse, she's starting to realize her surprise might get her father disqualified if race officials think he's getting unauthorized assistance from family members. What's your dad's name? Richard Hartford. The name doesn't mean anything to Jamal, but he pulls out his own phone, a cracked iPhone 6 that Keisha found at a pawn shop last year. Let's call him. No answer. Straight to voicemail. He always turns his phone off during races, Sophie explains. Says it messes with his focus. Jamal checks his father's old watch again. 3 minutes and 22 seconds elapsed. 8 minutes to make his qualifying time, and he's standing still while every other runner in his pace group disappears toward the finish line. But looking at Sophie's grateful expression, he knows there's no other choice he could make. Okay, new plan. I'm gonna walk you toward the finish line, and we'll find your dad. But you'll miss your time. Maybe. But you'll be safe. That's what matters. Jamal gives her his remaining water bottle and the energy bar he'd been saving for mile 22. Sophie accepts them gratefully, and they start walking against the flow of runners still in the race. The rain picks up, cold October droplets that soak through their clothes within minutes. Jamal's St. Christopher pendant swings visibly outside his running shirt now, catching Sophie's attention. What's that? She asks, pointing at the silver chain. My father's, St. Christopher, patron saint of travelers, supposed to keep you safe on journeys. Sophie stares at the pendant with unexpected intensity, like she's memorizing every detail. Was your father a runner too? Construction worker. He wore this every day, hoping it would protect him on job sites. Jamal's voice gets quiet. Didn't work for him, but maybe it'll work for us today. Then you should keep it, Sophie says quickly. I'm okay now. They walk in comfortable silence for a few minutes, Jamal adjusting his pace to match Sophie's smaller steps. Around them, Chicago shows its best side crowds cheering for every runner, volunteers handing out water and encouragement, the city coming together for one day of shared celebration. But as they get closer to the finish area, Sophie becomes increasingly nervous. Not grateful nervous. She keeps scanning the crowds like she's afraid of being spotted by someone she knows. Sophie, you sure you're okay? Yeah, just... My dad's gonna be really mad. I wasn't supposed to leave school today. There's something else in her voice. Something that doesn't quite match a 12-year-old who just wants to surprise her father at a marathon. When they reach the intersection of Michigan Avenue and Roosevelt, The finish line area comes into view. Massive crowds, sponsor banners, the iconic Chicago Marathon arch that every runner dreams of crossing. Sophie's phone buzzes with a text message. She glances at it and her entire demeanor changes. "He's here," she says, relief and anxiety mixing in her voice. "He finished already." "That's great." "Where?" Sophie points toward the family reunion area where successful marathoners reconnect with their support teams. Even from a distance, Jamal can see clusters of people in expensive running gear, some holding professional photography equipment, others wearing gear that costs more than his family makes in a month. "There," Sophie says, pointing at a tall man in pristine running attire. Even post-race, he looks like he stepped out of a fitness magazine. "That's my dad." As they approach, race officials announce over the loudspeakers, "Course closure is now in effect. All remaining runners have been redirected to the finish line via shuttle bus. Jamal's marathon is officially over. No qualifying time, no scholarship, no path to medical school that doesn't involve crushing debt. But Sophie is safe. And somehow, that feels like enough." But Sophie's reaction to seeing her father would reveal the first hint of something extraordinary. At the finish line, chaos reigns. Thousands of exhausted runners wrapped in thermal blankets, families reuniting with tears and cheers, photographers capturing moments of triumph. Sophie spots her target immediately. "Daddy!" Richard Hartford turns at his daughter's voice, and Jamal watches the man's face cycle through emotions in real time. Relief floods his features first, pure parental panic dissolving. Then comes the anger. "Sophie Hartford, what are you doing here?" The full name catches Jamal's attention, but he's already backing away respectfully. This is a family moment, and he doesn't belong here. But Richard's anger evaporates when he processes the situation. His daughter is soaked from rain, clearly shaken, standing next to a teenager who's obviously sacrificed his own race to help her. Richard Hartford is tall, lean, with expensive but understated running gear. Even exhausted from 26 miles, he carries himself with authority that suggests he's used to being the most important person in any room. "I'm sorry, sir," Jamal starts, still catching his breath. "I found Sophie near mile 20. She was having trouble breathing. Couldn't find you. I just wanted to make sure she got here safely." Richard's eyes dart between his daughter and this young man who's clearly pushed himself to physical limits. Jamal's borrowed running clothes are soaked through. His face shows telltale signs of serious exertion. "You stopped your race to help her?" "Yes, sir. Anyone would have done the same." That simple statement hangs in the air. Richard knows better than anyone that very few runners would sacrifice their goals for a stranger. Richard pulls out his wallet thick with cash, the kind that never worries about having enough. "Please, let me give you something. You saved my daughter." The offer makes Jamal genuinely uncomfortable. He takes a half step back, shaking his head. "No, sir, I couldn't. I really couldn't." "Son, you don't understand. This was important to you, I can see that. Let me at least—" "Mr. Hartford, honestly, anyone would have done the same thing." Jamal means it completely. Taking money for helping someone feels fundamentally wrong. Richard studies Jamal's face carefully. In 30 years of business, he's become expert at reading people. What he sees in this teenager is something increasingly rare, genuine goodness without expectation of reward. "At least take my card," Richard insists, pressing a sleek black business card into Jamal's reluctant hand. "I own some businesses. Maybe I can help you someday." The card is heavy stock paper, expensive feeling. Minimalist design. Richard Hartford, managing partner. No company name, just a phone number, and the same intertwined HF logo from Sophie's phone case. Before Jamal can protest further, Sophie steps forward and hugs him impulsively. For a 12-year-old from obvious privilege, she seems genuinely moved by his kindness. "Thank you for being nice to me," she whispers. "Nobody else stopped." As she pulls away, she slips something small into his hand, a custom keychain with the same HF logo, clearly expensive and personalized. "Sophie," her father starts to protest. "It's okay, Daddy." He should have it. Jamal looks down at the keychain, then back at both of them. Father and daughter, clearly from a different world than his, but connected to him now by this strange intersection. "Thank you both, but I should get going. My family's probably worried." Richard watches Jamal carefully as he prepares to leave. There's something in the older man's expression that wasn't there before. A calculating look, but not predatory. More like a businessman who's just discovered something unexpectedly valuable. "Take care of yourself, son. And thank you." "Really?" Jamal nods and turns to walk away, not looking at the business card, focused only on getting home to tell his mother he tried his best. The medal he'll never receive feels less important than Sophie's smile. Behind him, Richard Hartford pulls out his phone and makes a quiet call. The conversation is too distant to hear, but his tone has shifted from gratitude to something more purposeful, something that sounds like the beginning of a plan. What Jamal didn't know was that his simple act of kindness had set something much bigger in motion. Back at Washington Family Soul Food, the late afternoon sun filters through grimy windows into the empty restaurant. Jamal returns exhausted, his borrowed running shoes squelching with each step across the worn linoleum floor. His mother looks up from wiping down tables that haven't seen customers in hours. "How'd it go, baby?" Jamal tells her about helping Sophie, but downplays the sacrifice. He doesn't mention the scholarship qualification he missed, doesn't want her to feel guilty about the $50 they couldn't afford to lose. "You did the right thing," Denise says simply, and somehow that makes everything feel worth it. Alone in his cramped bedroom that night, Jamal examines Sophie's keychain more closely. It's clearly custom-made, expensive. The metal feels substantial, like real silver. When he turns it over, there's tiny engraved text that requires squinting to read, "Hartford Foundation, changing lives through opportunity." Hartford Foundation. Not Hartford Construction or Hartford Restaurant Supply. A foundation. Jamal sets the keychain on his nightstand next to the business card and tries to sleep. But something feels off. Not wrong, exactly, just bigger than it should be. The next morning brings the first strange occurrence. At 7:15 a.m., an expensive black sedan drives slowly past the restaurant. Tinted windows, Illinois plates, the kind of car that doesn't belong in this neighborhood. It circles the block once, then disappears. Jamal notices because he's sweeping the sidewalk, trying to make their storefront look more inviting for the handful of customers who might wander in. At 10:30 a.m., a well-dressed woman enters. Blonde hair, tailored coat, shoes that cost more than Jamal's family spends on groceries in a month. She orders coffee and asks detailed questions about the menu, about how long they've been in business, about who owns the place. Her questions feel less like customer curiosity and more like research. "This is such authentic food," she says, taking careful notes on her phone. "Has your family always been in the restaurant business?" Denise answers politely, but Jamal catches her confused expression after the woman leaves. They get maybe 5 customers on a good day. Nobody takes notes about their mac and cheese. That afternoon, Keisha bounces home from school with news. "Some fancy lady came by asking about you specifically, Jamal. Wanted to know if you really ran in the marathon yesterday." "What kind of questions?" "Like, did you finish? How long have you been running? What are your plans for college?" Keisha shrugs. "I told her to mind her business, but she seemed nice." Left a $20 tip for information. $20. For information about Jamal's marathon. Something is definitely happening. But what? That evening, Keisha gets curious. At the library, she Googles Hartford Foundation on the public computer. The results are limited but impressive. a private foundation focused on community development and entrepreneurship support. The foundation's website is sparse but professional. No photos of leadership, minimal details about specific programs. But the few case studies mentioned involve significant investments in small businesses across the Midwest. Meanwhile, miles away in Lincoln Park, Sophie Hartford can't stop thinking about Jamal's sacrifice. She's discovered through online race results that he was disqualified, meaning he gave up everything to help her. The weight of that realization sits heavy in her 12-year-old conscience. The phone call that changed everything came exactly 1 week later. Tuesday evening at Washington Family Soul Food feels like every other Tuesday. Empty tables, counting pennies, wondering how much longer they can hold on. The dinner rush never materialized. Again. Jamal wipes down the same counter for the third time, watching his mother count the day's earnings. $31. Not even enough to buy tomorrow's ingredients. His phone buzzes. Unknown number. Most unknown numbers are bill collectors these days, but something makes Jamal answer. Hello? Jamal? This is Richard Hartford, Sophie's father. Do you have a moment to talk? The voice is calm, professional, but there's something underneath it, an energy that suggests this call is important. Oh, hi, Mr. Hartford. Is Sophie okay? She's fine, thank you. Actually, she's been talking about you all week, but I'm calling because I've been thinking about our meeting, about what you did. Jamal feels uncomfortable already. Sir, I really didn't do anything special. That's where you're wrong, son. Can we talk? Really talk. There's something in Richard's tone that makes Jamal sit down. This isn't a casual thank you call. I've been thinking about you for 7 days straight, Richard continues. Sophie hasn't stopped talking about your kindness, but more importantly, I've been doing some research. Research? The word hits Jamal like cold water. The black car, the woman asking questions, the $20 for information about his marathon. What kind of research? Nothing invasive, I promise. Just public records, social media, conversations with some of your neighbors. Everyone speaks very highly of the Washington family. Jamal's hand tightens on the phone. Rich people don't research random teenagers unless something bigger is happening. Mr. Hartford, I don't understand. Jamal, I don't think you realize who you helped that day. Sophie is my daughter, yes, but I should have introduced myself properly. The pause feels loaded with significance. I'm Richard Hartford, managing partner of Hartford Ventures. The name means nothing to Jamal, but Richard's tone suggests it should. We're a private equity firm, Jamal. We specialize in community development and small business investment. We manage about $1.2 billion in assets. The number hits Jamal like a physical blow. Billion. With a B. I don't understand why you're telling me this. Because what you did for Sophie wasn't just kind. It was extraordinary. And I've learned that extraordinary character in small moments usually indicates extraordinary character in bigger ones. Jamal's mind races. A billionaire has been researching his family for a week. But more than that, Richard continues, his voice getting quieter, more personal, I need you to understand something about me. I grew up in poverty in Detroit's East Side. My parents ran a small diner that failed when I was 15. The revelation stops Jamal's spinning thoughts completely. I know what it's like to watch your family's dreams crumble. I know what it's like to count every dollar, to choose between groceries and rent, to lie awake worrying about tomorrow. Richard's voice carries the weight of lived experience, not the detached sympathy of someone who's read about poverty in magazines. When I made my first million, I promised myself I'd find ways to help people like my parents, people with character and drive who just need an opportunity. Mr. Hartford Hartford. The Hartford Foundation operates on a simple principle, Jamal. We identify individuals who demonstrate exceptional character when no one is watching. Then we provide them with opportunities to transform their communities. The foundation. Sophie's keychain. The mysterious research. It's all connected. Sophie told me about your St. Christopher pendant, about how you talked about your father's memory, about your dreams for college, about how you gave up everything to help a stranger. Jamal touches the pendant unconsciously. It's hanging outside his shirt, warm from his body heat. And then I learned about your family's restaurant, about your mother working 14-hour days, about your scholarship opportunity that you sacrificed, about a family that's struggling but hasn't lost their integrity. Each word feels like Richard is reading from Jamal's private diary. How do you know all this? Because for the past week, I've had my foundation's research team very discreetly learning about you. Not invasively, just carefully. Public records, social media, conversations with people who know your family, the black car, the questions. It wasn't random. Everyone we spoke to said the same thing about the Washington family. Hardworking, honest, always helping others even when you have nothing to give. Jamal's throat feels tight. This conversation is moving somewhere he doesn't understand. Jamal, in 30 years of business, I've learned that character is the rarest commodity in the world. You had nothing to gain and everything to lose when you helped Sophie, and you still chose kindness. Anyone would have. No, they wouldn't. I spent 3 hours surrounded by runners who literally stepped over fallen competitors to maintain their pace times. You were the only one who stopped. The weight of that statement settles over Jamal. Sophie discovered through the race results that you were disqualified. She's been crying about it for 3 days, Jamal. She knows what your help cost you. Jamal closes his eyes. A 12-year-old shouldn't carry that guilt. That's not her fault. Of course it's not. But it tells me everything I need to know about the kind of person you are. You sacrificed your future to help my daughter, and you've spent a week making sure she doesn't feel guilty about it. Richard's voice gets stronger, more decisive. Jamal, character like yours isn't just admirable, it's investable. People like you don't just succeed. You create success around you. You transform communities. The word investable hangs in the air like a promise. What are you saying, Mr. Hartford? I'm saying that helping my daughter was the most profitable 17 seconds of your life. You just don't know it yet. But what Richard offered next would change not just Jamal's life, but his entire community. Jamal, I want to offer you something, but not charity, a partnership. The word partnership echoes in the empty restaurant. Jamal looks around at the worn counters, the flickering fluorescent lights, his mother counting $31 like it might magically multiply. I don't understand what you mean. Hartford Ventures wants to invest in Washington family soul food, with you and your family as full partners. The statement is so unexpected that Jamal almost drops the phone. What? $500,000 immediate investment for complete restaurant renovation and expansion. Full college scholarship for you at any university you choose. Business mentorship program pairing your mother with successful restaurant entrepreneurs who've built empires from family recipes. Each number hits Jamal like a physical blow. $500,000. More money than his family has seen in their entire lives combined. Mr. Hartford, this is crazy. I just helped Sophie. This is way too much. And Keisha gets access to Hartford Foundation's STEM education program. Full computer science track, summer internships at tech companies, direct pipeline to top engineering schools. Richard isn't finished. But the investment comes with a condition. We want Washington Family Soul Food to become the flagship location for what we're calling the Community Champions Initiative. I don't know what that means. It means your restaurant becomes both a successful business and a training ground. Other struggling entrepreneurs from underserved communities come here to learn from your mother's success. You become a model that we can replicate across the country. The scope is overwhelming. Jamal tries to process what Richard is describing, their little struggling restaurant becoming some kind of beacon for other families fighting the same battles. The math is simple, Jamal. We invest in your character. Your family builds something extraordinary. Other families learn from your success. Everyone wins. This doesn't make sense. You don't invest $500,000 because someone helped your daughter. Actually, that's exactly what we do. Let me tell you about Hartford Foundation's track record. Richard's voice shifts into business mode, confident and precise. 15 years of operations, 43 investments in character-driven individuals, 43 successes. We've never lost money on people like you, Jamal. People like me? People who demonstrate extraordinary character when they think no one is watching. People who sacrifice their own goals to help strangers. People who work harder than everyone around them but never complain about the unfairness. Each description fits Jamal's life perfectly, but hearing it from a stranger feels surreal. This isn't charity, son. This is business. Good people with strong values don't just succeed, they lift up everyone around them. That's profitable. Jamal's mother notices him on the phone and starts walking over, concern written across her tired face. Mr. Hartford, I need to talk to my family about this. Of course. But first, I want to meet with all of you. Tonight, if possible. Tonight? Jamal, I've spent a week researching your family. I know your character, but I want your mother and sister to know mine. The request feels reasonable, but the timeline is overwhelming. Can you give us an hour to close up here? I'll be there at 8 o'clock. And Jamal? I'm not coming in the expensive car you might expect. I learned a long time ago that real relationships aren't built on showing off wealth. The call ends, and Jamal stares at his phone like it might explain what just happened. Baby, who was that? Denise approaches, dish towel in hand, the same question she's asked 1,000 times when bill collectors call. Mama, sit down. I need to tell you something. For the next 30 minutes, Jamal explains everything. The marathon, Sophie, Richard Hartford, the research, the $500,000 offer. Denise listens without interrupting, her business instincts honed by years of survival processing every detail. This man wants to give us $500,000 as an investment, with conditions and expectations. What kind of conditions? We become successful. We help other families become successful. We prove that character matters more than circumstances. Denise is quiet for a long time, staring at the eviction notice that still sits beside the cash register. And you trust this man? I don't know him well enough to trust him. But I trust that he stopped his entire week to research our family because I helped his daughter. When Keisha arrives home from her after-school program, they explain the situation again. Her 14-year-old optimism cuts through the adult complexity immediately. So basically, a billionaire wants to pay for college for both of us because Jamal is a good person. It's more complicated than that, baby girl. Sounds pretty simple to me. Good people deserve good things. At exactly 8 o'clock, a modest Honda Civic pulls up outside the restaurant. Richard Hartford steps out wearing jeans and a simple button-down shirt, carrying a leather folder that probably contains more financial documents than the Washington family has ever seen. He doesn't look like a billionaire. He looks like someone who remembers being poor. Mrs. Washington, he says, extending his hand to Denise. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Mr. Hartford, please call me Denise. And you must be Keisha. Sophie told me you're the computer genius in the family. Keisha beams. Someone has been talking about her to important people. They sit at one of his restaurant's worn tables. Richard spreading out documents that detail the investment proposal, timeline for renovations, expectations for community involvement. But more importantly, he tells stories. About other families Hartford Foundation has partnered with. About restaurants that started just like theirs and now employ dozens of people. About kids who got STEM education and became engineers, doctors, entrepreneurs. The hard part isn't the money, Richard explains. The hard part is building something that lasts, something that helps other people climb the same ladder you're climbing. Denise asks sharp questions about profit sharing, decision-making authority, what happens if the business fails. Richard answers every question with patience and specificity. This isn't his first conversation with a family deciding whether to trust him with their dreams. "I have one more surprise," he says near the end of the meeting. Sophie appears at the restaurant door, backpack over her shoulder, laptop bag in hand. "I did some research too," she announces, walking over to their table. 6 months later, the transformation was beyond anything Jamal's family had imagined. Washington Family Soul Food 2.0 opens with a block party that shuts down 3 streets. The space has doubled in size, featuring an open kitchen where customers can watch Denise work her magic with cast iron pans and family recipes passed down through generations. The original charm remains, the same warm colors, the same family photos on the walls, the same love poured into every dish. But now it's amplified by professional equipment, efficient layout, and seating for 80 people instead of 24. Opening day draws lines around the block. Local news crews interview customers raving about authentic soul food in a warm, welcoming atmosphere that feels like eating at your grandmother's house. The first day's sales, $2,847, exceed their old restaurant's best month. Jamal commutes daily to Northwestern University, pre-med with a business minor, but he's never missed an evening shift at the restaurant. His marathon training continues with proper gear and a professional coach funded by the foundation. The borrowed shoes are now a proud display piece behind the counter. "From borrowed shoes to big dreams," reads the small placard beneath them. His mother has transformed from struggling single parent to confident business owner. Denise Washington has been featured in Entrepreneur magazine, spoken at small business seminars in 3 states, and mentors 2 other restaurant owners through Hartford Foundation's program every month. Her natural leadership, no longer constrained by financial desperation, flourishes in ways that surprise everyone, including herself. "I always knew how to run a restaurant," she tells a Chicago Tribune reporter. "I just never had the resources to show it." Akeisha codes during breakfast before school, developing an inventory management app specifically for small restaurants. Washington Family Soul Food serves as her beta testing ground, and her system has already improved their food waste by 30%. The app, tentatively named KitchenWise, has attracted attention from other Hartford Foundation restaurant partners who want to implement similar systems. "My sister's gonna revolutionize the industry before she graduates high school," Jamal tells everyone with pride. The community impact ripples outward in ways no one anticipated. 3 other local businesses have received Hartford Foundation investments based entirely on the Washington family's recommendations. They knew their neighbor's character better than any research team could discover. Martinez Family Bakery reopened with expanded production capabilities. Thompson's Automotive got equipment to serve the increasing foot traffic from restaurant visitors. Even Mrs. Rodriguez convinced her son to reopen the corner store with Hartford Foundation support. The entire block has become a destination. Food bloggers drive from downtown Chicago specifically to eat at Washington Family Soul Food, then discover the bakery's incredible Tres Leches cake and Thompson's honest car repair services. Property values increase, but Hartford Foundation's anti-displacement measures ensure current residents aren't forced out by gentrification. It's community improvement, not community replacement. The Chicago Tribune runs a feature story. How one act of kindness transformed a neighborhood. The article includes before and after photos showing boarded storefronts replaced by thriving businesses, cracked sidewalks repaired, and empty lots converted to community gardens. Washington Family Soul Food now hosts monthly workshops where Denise teaches struggling restaurant owners about menu development, customer service, and financial management. Her first protege, a young mother from Milwaukee, just opened her own successful Caribbean restaurant using Denise's guidance. Sophie visits every few weeks, officially for social media marketing help, but really because she's developed a genuine friendship with Keisha. Two girls from completely different worlds, united by their family's unlikely partnership. Sophie's teaching me about business presentation, Keisha explains to anyone who asks. I'm teaching her that being smart doesn't make you better than anybody else. The Hartford Foundation's Community Champions Initiative, with Washington Family Soul Food as its flagship success story, receives White House recognition for innovative community development approaches. The ceremony takes place on a Tuesday afternoon. Jamal wears his father's St. Christopher pendant outside his shirt, clearly visible as he shakes hands with policymakers and foundation executives. But the most meaningful moment happens the following weekend during Jamal's second attempt at the Chicago Marathon. This time, he has proper training, professional gear, and a support team cheering at every mile marker. At mile 20, the exact spot where he first encountered Sophie, he maintains perfect pace for his 3:22 finish goal. But at mile 25, Jamal spots a collapsed runner 30 yards ahead. Heat exhaustion, no support team visible, clearly in distress. Without hesitation, Jamal stops his race. Again. Sophie, running the final mile with him as planned, watches this happen and starts laughing. "You're still the same person," she tells him later as they cross the finish line together, both wearing matching St. Christopher pendants. Success didn't change you. The Hartford Foundation announces that Washington Family Soul Food will sponsor a Character Champions Award at every major marathon in Chicago, recognizing runners who sacrifice personal goals to help others. Because some things are more important than finish times. But the most important moment came exactly 1 year after that first meeting. Anniversary Marathon Day arrives with perfect October weather. Jamal volunteers at mile 20, the same spot, where everything changed, managing a hydration station sponsored by Washington Family Soul Food. The station is staffed entirely by community volunteers, Mrs. Martinez from the bakery, Thompson from the auto shop, even Mrs. Rodriguez's son from the reopened corner store. People whose lives were touched by the ripple effects of one moment of kindness. At 11:47 a.m., it happens again. A young runner collapses near their station. Heat exhaustion, dehydration, clearly undertrained for the distance. The kid can't be older than 19, wearing worn-out shoes that look familiar to anyone who's ever struggled financially. Without hesitation, Jamal abandons his volunteer duties to help, just like he did a year ago. Sophie, now 13 and volunteering alongside him, watches his immediate response with knowing eyes. "Get me some ice and water," Jamal calls to the other volunteers, kneeling beside the struggling runner, "and find a medic." It's the same calm leadership he showed with Sophie, the same natural instinct to put someone else's well-being above everything else. The runner recovers quickly with proper hydration and cooling. As he prepares to continue his race, he notices Jamal's volunteer shirt. Washington Family Soul Food, Character Champions. That restaurant downtown? I've heard about it. Family that came from nothing and built something amazing. Something like that, Jamal smiles. Sophie observes the entire interaction, then pulls Jamal aside as the runner disappears back into the marathon stream. "You're still the same person," she tells him, the same words she said after his second marathon. Success didn't change you at all. That evening, at the anniversary celebration in the packed restaurant, Richard Hartford addresses the crowd of customers, community members, and media representatives. "A year ago, my daughter got lost at this marathon. But in getting lost, she helped all of us find something proof that character matters more than capital, that kindness is the most profitable investment anyone can make." The next day brings exciting news. Keisha announces her acceptance to MYT's early admission program, with plans to study both computer science and business. Her KitchenWise app has been adopted by 12 Hartford Foundation restaurant partners across 4 states. I'm going to build technology that helps small businesses compete with big corporations, she declares with 14-year-old confidence that makes everyone believe her. Jamal gives a short speech that night, the restaurant packed with neighbors, customers, and Hartford Foundation staff. This all started because my father taught me that when someone needs help, you help. That's not about money or success, that's about being human. The final scene shows Jamal back in his pre-dawn restaurant prep routine, but now he's training 2 new community champion candidates while cooking. Same work ethic, same values, but amplified through opportunity and multiplied through example. Sophie, now confident and community-minded, announces her future plans. Attend Chicago public school instead of private academy, then run Hartford Foundation's youth programs when she's old enough. I want to find the next person like Jamal, she says simply. The circle continues. Jamal's story proves that kindness is never wasted. It just takes time to see the return on investment. Every day, we have chances to help someone whose story we don't know, whose potential we can't see. What if the next person you help is carrying tomorrow's solution to a problem you're facing today? What if your small act of kindness becomes someone else's life-changing moment? Think about it. Jamal stopped for 17 seconds to help a lost girl. That decision transformed his family's restaurant, sent him to medical school, launched his sister's tech career, and revitalized an entire neighborhood. But it started with a choice. The same choice you'll face next time you see someone who needs help. Will you keep running toward your own finish line, or will you stop? Share this story with someone who needs to remember that their character matters. Like this video, if you believe good people don't go unnoticed, they just sometimes have to wait for the right moment to be seen. Subscribe for more stories that prove we're all just one act of kindness away from changing everything. Because in a world that often feels divided, stories like Jamal's remind us that we're more connected than we think. Your 17 seconds of kindness are waiting. Don't miss them.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.